Obviously we want to bring more biodiversity, but first we really had to bring life back. We actually had to dig the holes and bring, wood chips, compost, to get some sort of soil for these plants to grow, because there was mostly barren rock, red rock. You can still see on one of the sides of the peak how it used to be. And then where we started to plant, you can see that now everything is green, and actually plants can actually grow there and survive there. Obviously we picked only endemic species because those we were sure would adjust to the kind of climates. And for us this was in a way a mixed project, because it was not just about restoring life and with its biodiversity, but also to provide security for the people living down by the sea, because the problem is large rocks, and Madeira is basically a large rock, crack, and when they crack into smaller bits and there's heavy rain, they just roll down the hill, and obviously they bring distraction to cities below. The thing we decided from day one that we will do differently is that we will not just plant. We would plant and care afterwards, caring about making sure that whatever amount of plants that we were putting on the ground, they would succeed. Throughout the years, we had years where we planted 8,000 to 9,000 plants each winter. Biodiversity, when people think about it, it's not just about having more species of plants. What does it mean to have more species of plants? Well, maybe a certain bird feeds only on a certain kind of plant, and if he doesn't find that kind of plant in an area, it just moves away. The larger is the diversity of plants that we have on the ground, from our experience, the larger is also the number of animal species that we find nearby. After the last big fire that we had on our grounds, which was in 2010, suddenly, I think that was the worst part. Everything was silent. Really silent. Here, no birds chirping, no buzzing or anything. There was no sound. And everything was, obviously, the landscape was black. So it was a really sad sight, and it was really confusing to be on that silence. But then one day in spring, on the first spring after that, we had lots of cuts of those burned woods that we were removing, so we could start planting from zero. And we were turning all those burned woods into wood chips. So we brought the machine to do that, and we had a line of people putting all that woods to. And then suddenly, when we stopped for a while for a pause, we hear some birds chirping, and we could not really realize from where it was, because there were no trees, nothing that survived. And so we started to look inside the piles of wood chips, and there we find a small nest of blackbirds. So we find 4 babies that were living there, and we decided to move from there to let them grow. And suddenly we realized that life was coming back, even in the worst of situations. That was possible. The kind of forest that Madeira has is special for most Europeans, because this is the kind of forest that you had at your doorstep a few thousand of years ago. In a way, when I saw that and decided to move to the islands, one of the things was, and that's one of the reasons why I'm working here, is that I didn't want the island to turn into the same thing where I used to live before. Because, for me, just moving from place to place to get away from environmental destruction, you cannot spend all your life doing that, every now and then just moving, because things are no longer nice for you. So instead I decided to be proactive and decided to work towards keeping things in the same stage. That's why I joined the association, and we work towards putting pressure on politicians so that they take the correct measures and follow the right policies. Not that it always works, but if we don't try, it's going to be even worse. And obviously not just talking, also doing, coming on the weekends to do these projects, try to turn the land into something nice, not just concrete and tarmac. And I think biodiversity is important for all those reasons, but also for us to be happy. I mean, to find nature around us, because it's a bit like when you have an invasive species like those eucalyptus, which can just take over all the land and not let any other species grow next to them, because they take all the resources, all the water, all the nourishments, that they will take everything, so nothing grows around them. And obviously that's not good. You can look and it's still green, but it's just one kind of green. And obviously, apart from all the dangers that we get from the when we go into let's say a monospecies, it's people tend to call them forests, but actually they are not forests. It's just a place where you have trees planted. It's not really a forest, because a real forest, I mean, has many kinds of plants, has animals, and where water comes from the sources, and let's say the nature actually works. So I would not say that Madeiran trees are more resistant to fire. They're not. Unfortunately, when they get fire, they burn and they die, just like the other ones. They are more resistant because the environment where they grow naturally, it's more humid, more damp, and so the conditions are not so good for fires to spread. Now oil is, I mean, like the most important thing. We need it for energy, and we don't think so much about water. Well, here on Madeira Island we don't think so much about water, but when you look at a globe on the same latitude, if you start going east, the first thing you find is Morocco. You find the Atlas Desert, then you find Egypt, again you find desert, and then you find the Middle East, you've got Syria, and then you got Mongolia, and again you find more desert in the Gobi, and eventually you find Japan, which is not so much, because Japan has a long tradition of forestry, and for thousands of years they really add in their culture to, I mean, taking good care of their forests, so they're the exception. Then you move on to America after the Pacific, and again that's where you find Arizona and Texas and everything, more desert. So Madeira is an exception, and it's an exception because it was lucky in a way, because the island was, let's say, geographically goes from east to west, not north-south. You look at the desertish islands, which, I mean, are 90 degrees. They are not parallel to Madeira, and you can see that there actually nothing grows, because there really it has nothing holding the winds that come from the north, and like here. And obviously there's no vegetation then to collect all this humidity that will bring life to the island. Here Madeira has those conditions, precisely because of that, because it has trees, it has plants that collect that water that, I mean, is deposited underground. And I think that water in a way is going to be let's say, the gold of the future, because as I say, it's very easy here, but there's places in the planet where people have to walk kilometers every day to get a few buckets of water. Just many times not really proper clean water, but that's what they can have and manage to live with. And it's amazing the amount of water that goes around the world in plastic bottles, because people don't drink from the taps when it's so easy to filter the water, and because people keep forgetting that the water industry actually doesn't produce any water, of course. We have to leave it to the weather. They just produce bottles. That's really what they produce. Madeira Island should not need to import a single bottle of water. We have plenty of it and very good, so it doesn't make any sense. Biodiversity is called here because the kind of forests that actually in a way are a guarantee that life, human or any other life, will have success here, it's because we have this kind of forest. We had we have one there, which is endemic, Madeira cedar, a native plant. Most knowledgeable people on the island would say that we were making a mistake by trying to bring them back to the heights of the island. Because there they will not survive in those conditions. But very close to Pico do Arieiro, there is a peak that gets the name from this actual tree, and where diggings found very large roots from these trees. Nowadays there's not a single tree there. So you may ask, why do they call the hill, I mean, this, when you don't find a single tree there? But that's the reason. There used to be lots of those trees there. So we started to plant them, and well, tough luck. The first small baby plants that we put on the ground seemed like they were not going to succeed. It seemed like all those people that were just getting on our nerves were right after all. But then, as I told you, I liked to do things and understand them. And while every week when I was going there, I will try to understand why they were not doing so well. And eventually I found that the winds, very strong winds, would just move these plants aside, and then the air, the oxygen will get to the roots, and eventually they will just start getting yellow and eventually die. So we had a lot of eucalyptus we broke down there, with the shots of the eucalyptus we start making poles, and we attached with string these little cedars, the Juniperus cedars, that's the scientific name, attaching them to these poles so they would be steady. And then suddenly they were growing, I mean, quite well. And this, I mean, was I didn't see it written anywhere. I discussed it with the other people in the group, and again we put our thoughts together and see. It didn't mean that it was going to work, but we could see what was the reason why it was not working. So we decided to try a solution. It worked, and nowadays we already have, with 7-8 years old, we already have some trees that go 3-4 meters above ground. They are taller than us, and that means that after all it made sense. So this is really, in a way, an advice that I give to everyone that is trying to start doing these kind of things, is learn a lot, as much as you can, about what you're doing. Don't just do what other people tell you, because of that. Try to get your interest, your heart and your brain into what you're doing, and try to learn as much as you can. Plants from the same species that we planted there are showing up outside our plantation areas. Means that nature is already working. Again, also plants that we never planted, that are endemic, native, suddenly are showing up in our plantation areas, meaning two things: that as we bring, let's say, a bit of normality to the land, it adjusts itself and it starts to take, in a way, the chances that we provide with this work to restore and to bring back species that you didn't see in the past, birds that you didn't see for many years. This is really not about the causes or if it's natural or not. It means we have to adjust, and we have to work together to adjust, because I mean, we're in this barge, let's say, all together, and if it sinks, we sink all together. So we better work together to the solutions, and who cares about the problem? The problem is there. What we have is to learn and to do, not just talk, is do things that will let us go through this to the next time it happens again, 25 years into the future. Hopefully if we're there. I'm optimistic, you know.